We are talking about government regulation on video games for this guild meeting. Just to start it off, I personally think that video games are a little bit too violent. They can be a little bit too violent when it comes to pedestrians being portrayed as criminals, like everyday pedestrians being able to wield such as assault rifles, such as GTA, and just be able to blow away innocent lives. When I guess one way of regulating this would be for government to possibly tell game developers they have to censor certain things like that. Just to start off.
I think that the regulations that DSRB does are plenty. I mean, they already take very advanced measures to make sure minors aren't getting all these games without a lot of steps to be taken. They have the M rating system. You have to have a parent get it for you if you're under the age of 17 for M games and such. And I think that the government doesn't really need to regulate games at the moment because of the ESRB's ratings. Park, didn't you mention that parents really should be stepping in?
Yeah, my view on this. Yeah, I agree that instead of the government regulating what should be in video games, I believe that it's the parents' job to teach, not only to teach their kids what's right and wrong, but to regulate. I guess have the parents regulate what the kids play and how much they play.
Didn't you mention how China is starting to or has the system in regulation right now?
Yeah, just like they use our social security number to log in the game, and then the game can recognize your age, and then you have the permission to log into the game.
Before you can start
just
playing
like
the game,
this.
your social security number has to be entered in the game, and it'll be able to see if you are of age to play this game. That's a really cool idea. I think that's something America could definitely learn from. I mean, I know people are sometimes defensive about the social security numbers, but there could be definitely other ways to use, some sort of personal information that is kind of specific to each person to acquire
games
or to not be allowed to play.
Yeah.
Well, definitely with go ahead, you.
And I think because government is taking part to the system, so if we really make this kind of things really serious and formal, and so that will be a natural thing when we play the game.
Right. Well, definitely it's a fine line to walk whenever, especially with Sony's mishap a couple years ago with losing people's information when it comes to, like, if you're going to put your social security number or something to that extent on, you definitely need, the game developers definitely need to know what they're walking into. It's definitely not going to be, a walk in the park, especially with people, just trying to see Sony or Xbox's or Microsoft's security abilities.
Rachel, I know you want the government to regulate games probably more than any of us. I know you've gone to protests and everything many times about why government should be regulating even T games.
Yes, I do think that the government should play a part in regulating games, and they do. I think someone mentioned earlier, like the rating system, having games rated M or mature, and then only having people who are 17 and older actually being able to purchase them. And I think that's obviously a really good thing. It should be regulated because violent video games do have an effect on young people. One of the things that I found in doing research is they actually can discourage players from exercising self-control, and they can make people a bit more aggressive, and people who don't play a lot of violent video games. And they also have it is possible for them to desensitize people to violence in even real life. So there are definitely effects for playing violent video games. It may not necessarily make someone violent or go out and do a really violent act, but there should be restrictions to who can have access to them, because it can, especially for younger people, it can have not so good an effect on them.
Now, so I understand what you're saying, that there's a relation between violence in video games and actual violence happening in real life, but there's been 30 years of research happening over this topic on how just the correlation between the effects of screen violence and in real life violence, and it's really never been a clear decision on whether this is true or not. I mean, there's been some studies that have shown that there's a clear correlation between two, and then there's other times when it doesn't matter. It's just kind of random data. So I think that until research proves otherwise, we can't always say that the correlation between violence in video games and violence in real life could go together. Parth, weren't you saying something about
I have an article.
What?
Yeah, correlation doesn't always prove causation. That's a big thing. So, if there is a correlation between people playing violent video games and those people committing violent crimes, that doesn't always say that that doesn't mean that playing violent video games is what caused those people to commit those violent crimes. I have an article right here. It says, homicidal maniacs kill people, homicidal maniacs play video games, and therefore video games cause homicidal maniacs to kill people. That's what, a lot of people, generalize it as. And I don't think that's true.
Yeah,
there's a lot there. I think, I was saying that I think, the main reason that, the main reason about how people commit those violent crimes is because there's untreated, mental illnesses behind it. Instead of playing video games, I think it's the fact that they have mental illnesses and it goes untreated.
Yeah, I agree with you there. That even our speaker that came to talk to us about Richards was telling us about how he would tell people or ask people what caused this crime. They had video games in their house. He's like, well, did they have bags of chips in their house and a bar of soap and toilet paper or something, and that caused it. Maybe it's you can't. They're drawing the same conclusions as everyone else. There's no way to really show an exact line between the two. Connection.
Mm-hmm. I just think for as many people that play violent video games, I mean, you see these millions and billions of games that go off the shelf that are, basically just killing other people. It's kind of hard to take 10 people in one country and say, oh, well, this is affecting everybody. I definitely agree with Parth. There's definitely more to it. It's not a flat thing. It's not one thing that makes this happen. It could, help, push it in that direction. There's a lot of people with mental illnesses, but I'm definitely playing those games definitely probably don't help.
Yeah, and so when
that reminds me of something that. Oh, sorry. Well, I was going to say that reminds me of something that I read when I was doing my research, that, yes, violent video games don't just make people commit violent crimes. There's more to it than that. But you can't just deny that there's no effect at all. It can still be a factor in people being violent and aggressive. Obviously, it's probably not the only factor. Take a perfectly just non-aggressive person, have them play violent video games for a while, then all of a sudden they're violent. There's more to it than just that, but the violent video games, they can and do have that effect, especially when coupled with other factors. So there is still that effect, and a lot of people don't think that, violent video games make me violent, but there are reasons for that. People don't think that they're being directly affected by it. They think that it's not affecting me, so there's no effect at all, and that's not always the case.
But I think there.
Not to switch.
Huh?
Oh, go ahead.
Go first.
Yeah.
But I think there is another situation that the violent game can lead people to the right direction. Just like when they kill someone in a game, and they're just and the experience just give people the bad feeling that they are doing some bad things. I just have this experience when I played the game and I killed a so cute animal, and the sound is so I can describe, and then I just feel so bad. I think it's the positive it's the positive effect that the violent game.
Okay. Yeah, I have a statement that says.
Just to switch gears a little bit. I was just going to switch gears a little bit here. I had a article up the other day. It was in 2011. There was a court mandate. I think it was in California. It was ban on video games. It got struck down 7 votes to 2. And their reasoning, the causation was because of the First Amendment. I was just curious what people's idea on video games and the First Amendment would be, just because this is a pretty one-sided affair. But I'm curious how everyone thinks about that.
Well, I think that when talking about First Amendment rights, you want to refer more to kind of free speech, really. So it's voicing someone's opinion, voicing an opinion in some way, whether it's through the written word, just vocally, or art pieces or anything like that. And I personally think that it shouldn't apply to a video game since it's a product and not a piece of art. So it shouldn't be allowed to have free speech rights, because it's just it's like, oh, here's this, you use it, you give me money for it. It's kind of the same thing as buying a shovel or something. You use the shovel, the shovel doesn't talk back, and maybe they use mahogany wood or something to make the shovel. It doesn't make them saying, oh, we love mahogany trees and down with oak trees, and joined that movement yesterday. But you can't really say that video game is going to express its own opinion through the creator's mind, or whatever. I think that's why government should be able to regulate what's put out through video games, because it's a product. It's something someone's using. I mean, you're not going to give someone a chainsaw that spits fire. I mean, they're just not going to let you do that.
Yeah, I think that video games are considered art, in my opinion. I think that a lot of the ideas that developers and publishers come up with go into those video games, so it has that personal aspect behind it. And I think a lot of video games now are trying to go for that cinematic experience, what Assassin's Creed is trying to do, even Call of Duty nowadays is trying to go for that cinematic thing. And a lot of movies are the same. I guess, I don't know if you consider movies art. What do you think? Do you consider movies art or something? So I think I personally do. Yeah, so that's why I think the First Amendment should be considered for video games. Anyone else?
Well, I was just I wanted to point out something too, that it's to switch gears again, that unless you didn't say anything else about the First Amendment, Phil. Phil? First Amendment?
I thought you were open the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm good.
You brought it up. So we know that it's easy for minors to get a hold of them. I just have a piece of statistic here. 70% of 13 to 16-year-olds are able to purchase M-rated or higher games. So that means that they're not supposed to be purchasing them, but they're able to get their hands on them, even though that the ESP rating is saying that they can't. So obviously that the rating isn't doing enough, and that we need the government to do it is a very logical argument. But at the same time, the fact that they are able to get to these stores shows that there's other factors involving them acquiring these games, not only just the rating system. There's other factors that play into it, except the in-store transactions. There's the whole process of just getting to a store to purchase this game, or the online access to purchase this game, not just being able to walk to or go into the store and buy it. That's not always the case for everyone. So I don't know. Do you think it's too easy for minors to get a hold of these games now, or?
Yeah, I think it is really easy. I think as long as I think technology holds back like age restriction, because right now there's like you can just get around age restriction easily. Like, you know, they made M-rated games so you can only have people above 17 buy them. So then kids just get their parents or like an older sibling to buy it for them. Like if you was saying like you have to enter your social security number in to log in and play the game, like you can just have your parent put their social security number in instead, and you can play it that way. So I think for like age restriction to be like proper, you would first have to like have technology capable of like knowing who is actually playing the game at the current time or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
What's up?
I was gonna say definitely notifications. Like if it's for some, like if you have a child under a certain age, like, you know, under 17, like let's go with that. Definitely like notifications going to the parent at least. Maybe the parent doesn't know. Maybe just like that alone might cut out some percentage of kids playing these games, because some of them are a little bit brutal.
Yeah, I just noticed statistics that kind of plays, and it kind of falls into other countries and what they're kind of going to lengths to prevent the minors from acquiring it. It says about, you know, almost 85% of Canadians want to regulate some sort of, not banning them so much, but a warning system set up to notify, like you were saying, notify people of what is in the game. Like before, like not just like the little box in the range, but actually say like, okay, this game, you're going to shoot someone. Do you want to do that? Yes or no? There's measures set up before you even have access into the game that shows you what this game will have. I mean, I know that you get spoiler alerts and stuff, but if there's a way, like, say, okay, in this game, you will torture someone and pull out their eyeball. Like, this game has that. You really think this game... And I could see that appealing to the parents more than the kids, because the kids would be like, eyeballs, yeah! But, I mean, wow, that sounds really... Okay. So I just think that there's other ways that we can warn parents, I guess, more so than kids, but make warnings in general about what's in the game. That would be regulated by the government.
I think that would be a really good idea. Personally, to like have a better description of exactly what you're going to encounter in the game, even if it is more for the parents than the kids. Because, like you said, the kids are probably just going to think that whatever's in the game is really cool. They're not going to be thinking about, like, oh, how is this going to, like, affect me? Like, that's more like the parents.
Yeah.
But I think that should be. But I think that would be a really good idea to have that be a part of the games, just so people can really know what they're getting themselves into with them.
Yeah, I think, like, the main point behind all this is, like, you can go, Phil.
My God. I was just saying, like we've all played games where it's just kind of like, there's always games where it's like for instance, like we talked about the Call of Duty. Whenever the one mission we've all played, the Modern Warfare 2, wherever you go in and you literally you have to, as part of the mission, you actually have to blow away innocent people like that. If that wasn't a choice of yours, that was part of the mission. You had to do this. Now, I know whenever I first played it, it definitely caught me off guard. Even being, I think I was like, 17 or maybe 18 at the time, it still kind of shook me up a little bit. I was kind of like watching, I was like, wow, like, I know I'm playing this, but then whenever you go online, there's like a 10-year-old yelling at you on the microphone. You're like, well, he played it too. You know? So it's like, is that really what you want? Is that really a good thing for, you know, these kids to be seeing? I mean, I know it wasn't good for me, but...
Yeah,
definitely like a warning behind that.
There's an option to turn that feature off, isn't there?
You're right. Yeah.
I think it's not a feature, it's a mission.
Yeah.
Like shut off.
For like in games like that, like you could shut something like that off, like an option, or like a parental control.
What are you saying, Parth?
I was just saying, I think it all just comes down to like I think it's the duty of like a parent to teach their kid what's right or wrong. Like for that mission, I think the parents should know what comes with the game when they buy it. Similar like what you were saying, like have like like say like, oh, this game involves like ripping someone's eyeballs out. Like this game will involve shooting a lot of random innocent people, and I think parents should tell their kids like, this isn't right. Like you shouldn't do this.
Yeah, I don't think that the government should come in and just like. There's such a fine line between what is acceptable and what's not, and it's so you can't really say just like, okay, here, this is bad, this is wrong. Like everything, things go over the line because of, like, say in like the Incredibles video game, like, you know, you're Mr. Krill and you're punching people or something, and you know that could be considered super violent. Like government could ban that if they were in charge of this, and it would just kids process that as something that is more comedic than violent, because they saw it probably in the movie first before they played the game, and they just saw it. You know, they didn't know if they were dying or not. You know, they just saw them getting like little beat up, roughed around the edges, probably. I mean, unless they saw a spinning blade, choppy thing knock their head off. Did that happen? I think. Oh yeah, the guy got sucked into a jet engine at the end of the movie. Disney? Was that a Disney movie or Pixar?
Spoiler.
Oh,
Pixar. I think.
So I just think that if the government would not be able to distinguish what and what should not be banned based on every video game. So.
But I think that actually government can government can come out with a system that distribute the violence of the game into several levels. Just like usually what just punch others is just like it's okay. But if so, there it's filled with blood and just like the Resident Evil is a little bit so violent, so it should be restricted to the children just like this, separate into levels and to regulate them.
Yeah. So you're saying that we should basically create a system that would be very efficient in determining whether it is a violent video game that could injure a child's brain and, you know, desensitize them, or if it's just kind of a comedic property of the game that kids would just laugh at. That's a cool idea. So if no one else has anything else to say, any last words? That sounds like about to kill somebody. This is a really mortific, mortifying word for death.
Morbid?
Morbid! There we go. Very morbid debate. I guess it's about violence in video games and regulation. So yeah, if no one else has anything else, then I guess we covered everything. I mean, we talked about the parents being in charge of what their kids should and should not play, or the government should kind of step in and do that, or like you said, how there's systems already set up to try and stop by the government to stop kids from playing these certain games by using their personal information, and so it's specific to each person, so they won't have access to it. And we're gonna have some statistics on how kids are getting a hold of these and who wants these games regulated. I think we have a lot of good stuff here. So yeah, if no one has anything else, then